Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, lovely people, depending on where you are watching us from in this beautiful world. And today I am literally pumped. I was counting down the days, not just because we are starting season 6 today, but also because I really decided to make season 6 more and more about more experts, more leaders coming in, and who would be a better person to start this podcast with me today? Aaron, I am so excited to have you here because you and I met through a very beautiful recommendation from my gorgeous friend Romana. And Romana told me about you and your business partner, Robert, and you and Robert and I met. And ever since, the rest is history. I've been following you guys. I've been doing some amazing challenges with you. And here we are about a completely different topic. And we will be talking a lot about suicide, addiction, but mostly overcoming, seeing signs, finding tools. Your your CV, your intro, your bio read like an entire book. So please do us the honor and introduce yourself to the audience. Thank you for being here.
Marie, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled just to be talking to your crowd. I love spreading this type of message and providing any light where people feel stuck in the darkness. So if what we're talking about resonates with you, then reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out to me, reach out to Marie. Just reach out for support if what you hear today gives you a glimmer of that light at the end of the tunnel. I just want to say, if what we're talking about makes you feel uncomfortable, keep listening, because discomfort is the sign of change approaching. And this topic has to be talked about because it's avoiding it that causes the problems. That's what I'll start with, is that I had a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I never met my biological father. I was bullied mercilessly in elementary and middle school. I was sexually assaulted by my best friend when I went away to acting school.
Yeah.
That had sent me down a path of using drugs to solve a problem that it didn't solve, but it made it not so big of a problem for a long time.
Yeah.
And the drug use got worse. I became a drug dealer. I became part of those people in your community that you don't want there. I was one of them. I sold drugs to kids. I was violent. I was not a good contribution. My first marriage and relationship with my infant daughter ended because my first wife had a ton of courage and was not willing to put herself and our daughter through my behavior anymore. And while at the time I felt betrayed, I can look back now and say that that was probably the start of the end of that person that I was, is when she left and took our daughter.
Wow.
I was living in my car for a while. I was living in the basement of my parents' house or in my brother's bedroom, his childhood bedroom. I hated my job. I hated my life. And most of all, I hated myself. One day, May 20th, 1998, I hit my knees and I just said, "You have to make me stop." To anybody who was listening. Now, I need people to understand that at this time I was a minister. I was a high priest. I really thought I had a very close relationship with God, with Goddess, with any supernatural divine being that was out there, because I followed and studied them all. And I hit my knees and I just said, "You have to make me quit, because I'm not gonna. I'm not going to quit. I tried. I failed. This is stronger than me. But if you are the ultimate superior powers in the universe, then make me quit. Give me a miracle." And the next day I experienced a miracle and I quit. I quit drugs. I quit alcohol. And I have not picked up drugs or alcohol for 26 years. Now, that didn't solve all the problems, right? That ended the solution that I had found to all my problems. The problem was all my problems came back. And so I spent the
Well,
last 26 years working on those problems and actually dealing with those problems.
I do want to get there, but I need to pause you there for a second because you share this, you throw that in, and then you move on. I'm like, hold on, hold on. What was the miracle? How did you stop? Because I'm thinking like there might be a lot of people sitting here going like, give me the how, what happened? How can I stop? And I want to give people watching this that might be struggling with addiction right now, might be even just on the way into it, sliding into it, to hear this. Like what happened in your life that was your miracle where you went like, you know what, no more drugs, I can do this. You went from I can't do this on my own to I just did it in one day. How?
Well, I didn't do it on my own. That's first and foremost. And I had been trying to do everything on my own.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. I drove away from my parents' house to go to work.
Mm.
The night before, I had just hit my knees and sobbed and said, "You got to make me quit. I'm not going to quit. You're
Mm.
stronger than me. You're stronger than this, but I'm not. And if you leave this to me, I'm going to keep going, and it's going to get worse."
Mm.
And I cried myself to sleep. And the next day, I got up and I was driving to work, and I was getting high in the car, and my truck stalled. And it pulled over. And I got it off to the side of the road, and I grabbed my drugs and I grabbed my pipe, and I started walking to the nearest payphone, which was about a mile and a half away down this country road. My
Mm.
parents lived out in the country. And up on the left, I saw this little white church. And I heard this noise, and it sounded like, and I was terrified because I knew what was coming.
Mm.
A miracle was coming. And I just kept walking. And as I got closer and closer to the church, the noise got louder. And by the time I was standing across the church, it was like a TV full volume on a channel of fuzz. It was just overwhelming. And I didn't want to look because I knew there was a miracle waiting for me right there. And I turned finally and I looked. And the only thing I can describe, the only way for us little brains to understand what I'm about to say is there was Christ consciousness manifest. Now, as I told you before, praying to all the gods, all the goddesses, ancient and new, that had been my practice. And that was the reasons why I had used drugs, because I wanted to not be in this world. I wanted to be in that one. I was up to 11 hits of acid a day. I was smoking pot all day long. I was drinking anything I could get my hands on. So I turn and I look, and the feeling of love and forgiveness, just the overwhelming understanding and welcoming into a new life. Not being a Christian, I don't want people to think that. I have nothing against it. Here I was standing in front of this tiny little country Christian church, and there was Christ. There I was at the crossroads. And he said, this thing, this energy, this angel, this being, this God form said, right now you can put it down and never look back. And I took my pipe out and I threw it into a ditch. And I took this bag of drugs out and I dropped it on the ground. And I swear on all that is holy, a wind goes and blows it away. And the noise stopped and it was gone. He was gone. And it was just silence on a country road. And I just walked to the phone and I called my dad and he came and picked me up. And all I felt was love. All I felt was forgiveness after 28 years of hate and suicide and self-loathing and unloving. All I felt was overwhelming joy. And I called my dad. He came and picked me up. We towed my car home. And I went up to my brother's bedroom and I called the Triangle Club, the AA community. And someone picked up the phone on the first ring. And they said, Triangle Club. And I said, when is your next NA meeting? I think I'm an addict. And he said, "Where are you? I'll come get you." I said, "Don't do this." And he goes, "It's okay." And I said, "Don't you dare fucking say it." And he goes, "I love you. I'll come get you." And I said, "I can't do this right now." And he goes, "We have a meeting every hour. If you need a ride, we'll come get you." And he hung up. And I couldn't believe it because this man had no idea who I was and what I had done. And I just sat in bed the rest of the day. I called out to work. I did nothing.
Yeah.
The next day I had work off. I woke up and I got up and I walked downstairs because there was a noon meeting, 12 o'clock meeting. And I went downstairs and my mom and dad were watching a movie on TV. And the movie is called Clean and Sober with Michael Keaton. It's a phenomenal movie. Everybody should watch it.
Yeah.
But of course, this is the movie they're watching. And I sit down and I pick up the remote control and I turn off the movie. And my mom looks at me and she says, "Excuse me?" And it's very goofy. And it was something that always made me laugh as a kid.
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm not going to a work meeting. I'm going to an AA meeting because I think I'm an addict." And my mom went pale and started to cry. And my dad, and remember, this is not my father. I've never met my father. This is the man who did everything a man should do for his son or for his kid. He did it for me. And he said, "Whatever you need, I'll do because I love you." And that was it. That was in 24 hours, 3 men had told me that they loved me.
Uh-huh.
The God form, the divine, a stranger, and the man who raised me.
Mm.
And so when you say, "How did you do it?" I didn't do it. Love did it.
Yeah.
Love healed me. Love cured me. Love made me sober. And I went to my first meeting, and that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother adventure that is so much about my psychology. And then as I was leading my very first meeting, I got pulled over by a cop. And it was the first time in 14 years that I wasn't high.
Mm.
And that began a process of me understanding. For me, it wasn't about the steps, although the steps work. It wasn't about the people in the room, although every single one of them, including them, my first sponsor, saved my life.
Mm.
It was about love.
Yeah.
And everything I have done since has been from the heart. All the work I've done with families, with children, with small business, teaching warrior camps all over the world. It's all heart from here. And that's all I have. That is where, and it's the foundation of all my knowledge, that if all of my skills and all of my intellect fails in a moment of working with an addict or sitting with someone who's holding a knife because they want to kill themselves, if everything fails, I know one thing that will work. And it's 3 words. It will heal this world. It will fix my government here in America. It will fix my marriage. It created the relationship between me and my daughter. And here are the words. I hope everybody can write this down. I love you. And you start in the morning saying it in the mirror, and you end of the day saying it to the universe.
Yeah.
And you just share it as much as you can in between. And it's easy to say, and it's sometimes so fucking hard to do because you don't feel it. I don't feel love in my country. That is not what is on TV, and it's not what is on the news, and it's not what's happening amongst adults. But you have to carry the truth. And it's not about my God versus your God or your oil versus my oil.
I hear you. I
It's
can't
just love.
agree with you more, because the thing is, I have been on this journey of self-love and finding self-love myself. And I am absolutely convinced, with everything that I have learned and done, and modalities and tools and trainings and all of that aside, I know for a fact that self-love is the base of any success in life, whether that is overcoming addiction, whether that is in relationships, whether that is in business, even like in any form of where you wish to succeed, it has to have self-love as a base. I really learned that the very long way around, because I've done so many things in my life where I felt I succeeded, but I still felt empty, or felt I gotten there and then I fell backwards. And every time when I stumbled or fell backwards, I'm like, oh, there was the one ingredient missing, and that was self-love. So I've gone on this really, really deep journey, and I've very openly shared about that as well over the last, I'd say probably 18 months or so, where I really worked on that so deeply. And it's not easy. It sounds easy, just what you said, I started the exact same way. Tell yourself I love you every day in the morning when you get up, and you feel so silly and you feel weird when you do it at first because it's such a foreign concept. Yet the more you do it, you start actually really believing it, because we do believe what we tell ourselves, whether that's negative or positive. What we keep telling ourselves, we start believing it. So we may as well make it something positive, right? So when I started a journey, I felt really weird telling myself, I love you. I love you, Marie. I'm standing there in front of the mirror and I'm like, it's really awkward. And honestly, I didn't believe myself at first. But then when you get into the habit, and when I started doing it on a regular basis, I actually started noticing the effect it had on me, and it had on my heart, and on my self-beliefs, and on my actions, and on the ripple effects my actions have. So I absolutely love that you shared that, Aaron. Thank you so much for doing that. I do want to also go a little bit more into, I know you've written, like, I don't know, we talk about this very, very quickly in the forefield, but you've written like 4 books, I think, or you're in the process of publishing there was one about archetypes, there was one about teenagers on screens, there was one workbook about helping yourself getting back into better habits. You're writing one called One, and
Yeah.
it is. And
Yeah.
there's so much, but I want you to tell us, like, what is your favorite thing to bring to the market? Because I know that you've worked with teenagers. I know you've worked with suicide prevention, addiction, overcoming addiction, and you're now more and more working with adults, you told me, because you ran camps with teens. Now you're running camps with adults. There's so much, and I know already that I'm going to get you back for another podcast, but pick one thing right now that's really closest to your heart, where you're like, you know what, that is something that I really love sharing. And let's talk about that, because there is so much that we can choose from.
There is, and instead of picking one thing, I can kind of give you the umbrella topic. The
Awesome.
goal, the goal of myself as a business person, myself as a personality, myself as just myself, is to continue to bring the thing that I did for myself to the rest of the world, and that's to save a life. Just
Mm,
keep saving a life. Whatever happens today, did I contribute to someone's life continuing?
mm,
And that has in the past been solely about when I got sober, the first thing I did was open a martial arts school, because martial arts has been a foundational point and a cornerstone of my life. Everything, when I was a young kid, that's how I got out of bullying. Through all my drug addiction, martial arts was a constant. When I got sober, that was the thing I wanted to pay the most tribute to, because my mentors in martial arts were the people that continued a discipline within me, even when nothing else had discipline.
yeah.
Um, and martial arts is, by and large, an evolutionary process of the self through the art of war. It's the shadow arts. And I still am a shadow walker, which means it is the trauma and the darkness and the deep fear and the self-loathing. That's where the work is. That thing you're avoiding, that's where your enlightenment lays. And so when I work with a teenager, when I work with an adult, when I work with someone who's struggling in business or says, God, I want to change the world, but I don't even know what to do. For me, that's, somebody just said they want to change the world. That's life-saving behavior. Let's work on your business. Let's sit down and co-collaborate and create. And when we're done, you take it and use it or don't. But let's kill this blank page of unknowing of what's going to happen if. Who cares? The
Yeah.
most uncomfortable work that I ever had to do was get sober because I did not know what was going to happen next. You know what can happen if you have a life and sobriety? Anything. You want to know what's going to happen if you do a life of addiction? Jails, institutions, death. Those are assured. And so you have to walk away from knowing and step into the unknowing. It's not about balance. I love martial arts and Eastern philosophy that talks about balance, but that is not the Celtic philosophy. That is not the Viking philosophy. It's not the Druidic or the Gothic philosophies. Those philosophies are about imbalance. Imbalance, when your life tilts, that is when you have to flex and grow and stretch and strain. We never change when we're comfortable. We do not. Every great change comes with discomfort. So we have to step into the darkness and embrace discomfort. And to do that, we have to be resilient. So martial arts has always been that path of evolution for me. And so when I opened my martial arts school, being someone who is willing to walk in the shadows, my very first student, the mother came up to me. I had worked with him in a kids camp that I was working with elsewhere. And she just said, "Can you help my child?" And I said, "Maybe. What's going on?" And she said, "He's 6 years old. He's tried to kill himself 3 times. I caught him yesterday trying to hang himself in the bathroom." And here I was like, what are you going to say to that request? No? You say yes, and you find or you create a way. And so he came into my office the next day, and I had stayed up all night trying to figure out, what am I going to say? What do I talk about it? Do I avoid it? My very first martial arts student walked into my studio with a dragon attacking him. And he was 6. Somebody had to stand for this kid and fight this dragon and then teach him how to use his sword and fight his own dragon, because I still have a dragon fight. You have a dragon to fight, Marie. We've all got dragons to fight. But someone had to fight this kid's dragon with him, and he couldn't go away and let you fight it for him. You had to say, no, 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 no. You have to stay right here in this battle, little 6-year-old kid. And so everything I learned that night before was so eye-opening. It said, don't sugarcoat the conversation. If this 6-year-old, I was all over the internet. I was reading every article. So anybody who's listening, since we're talking about suicide, what do I do if my kid, my spouse, my friend starts talking about suicide? Here's step number 1. You talk about it. You don't avoid it. You don't sugarcoat it. You don't come up with cutesy little code words.
Yeah.
You come straight in like a warrior and you say, what was your plan? And this kid said, well, I was going to hang myself this time. And the time before, I was going to cut my own throat. And then the time before, I was going to stab myself in the heart. Now, if a 6-year-old has been thinking at that level, tell me what they haven't thought of. So tell me what you shouldn't talk about. And that suddenly gives you permission to say, those sound like intense plans. Those sound like really brutal plans. Did it hurt? And then you talk about the hurt. Well, what hurts so much that this hurt of suicide feels like it's going to hurt less? Well, this would have been a quick hurt. The other hurt was a long hurt. It was a 6-year hurt. What was that other hurt? Oh, it was my dad. Oh, your dad hurt you, or you were just hurt by it? And the conversation is real, and it's sticky, and it's messy. And what if I say the wrong thing? How could you possibly say the wrong thing? Just end with, I love you. Just end with, I love how hard you're fighting. I love that you shared this with me. End with love, because that's the part that was missing. Conflict is not a problem. Violence is a problem. And when someone is willing to be violent with themselves, it means they have disconnected from humanity. The problem with violence is that it's the ultimate disconnect from humanity. Conflict is not disconnection. Conflict is connection. Maria, if you and I are arguing and it's juicy and it's intense and there's words, but we still have eye contact and heart contact, fuck it. Say whatever you want. Just don't break contact with me.
I love this so much, and I'm going to pick you up on that right here, because something came up for me when you said that. And First of all, like I can't even tell you how heavy that weighs on my heart being a mum myself and hearing that. I can't even begin to imagine what that mum must have gone through, like completely feeling hopeless and helpless in this situation, not knowing where, to reach out to basically a stranger, like, which you probably were sort of in her life. You must be so out of ideas or completely without ideas. And for me, I like I've always read, but in the last few months or 18 months, I literally eat books for breakfast. Like I am constantly like I'm an audiobook person. I was never an audio person. Now I am because I can do it all the time when I'm driving, when I'm like
Same.
I hardly ever like I love music, but when I'm driving, I'm into my next audiobook. I just devour it and I just like really love it. And I've delved into epigenetics, which was a huge, huge, huge thing for me, healing things. But I don't even want to go there because that's for a complete other podcast.
What
But
an incredible
one,
science
oh,
epigenetics is.
absolutely incredible. But like I'll
Yeah.
just park that for now because there's just way too much right now. But one book that sort of fell into my lap, and I have no idea even how, but I always feel like there's a reason why. And funny enough, I can't remember the title now, but the title spoke to me and I thought, I need to read this. But there was something about lies and that you can't fix this. And it was a mom who wrote about her son's addiction, having three kids, and one of her sons had um, drug, alcohol addiction, and intensely suicidal. And she wrote that book with his permission about the entire journey they've been through where he's been calling his mom the C word and swearing and like there was an absolute he was really trying to cut her off and she was just holding space the entire time and she kept telling him that she loved him and she said it is a lie, you can't fix this, but you can be there, you can hold space for him, you can. So she went through this whole what you can, what you can't do. And I was like, oh, my sons are not even in that space, which I'm really, really grateful for. But for whatever reason, I felt like I need to read this. I don't know why, but I just really felt like I wanted to read this. And here's my thing. That's why I wanted to come back to what you've just said. Here's the connection that I'm making now. My sons are teenagers, they're 17 and 15. And there is this behavior that starts when they're at that age where it's just cave time. They're in their rooms and they're chatting to their friends, or they're going out to their friends, or they're on their screens. Or my older son is now, it's just his girlfriend, and that's his own world, and that his entire world. And he lives in that bubble and he's super happy. And I'm happy to see him happy. But there is this disconnection that starts happening. And every time I'm like, oh my God, I'm completely disconnected from my boys, I freak out and I cry or whatever. And then all of a sudden there's this one talk and he goes so deep. And I'm like, oh, and there's a connection. Okay.
Right.
So here's my question. I feel I'm in a very lucky space with where I'm at with my boys. And I fully understand that not everybody is. And I also understand by having teenagers how much they can retract and just retreat and just it might create this feeling of you're completely disconnected. And then they're going through something and then they shut down. What do you do? Like, what do you do when you feel there's something really deep going on and all you get is like, I'm fine, or close the door or whatever? How do you even get started to
Yeah.
recreate that connection?
So first of all, the idea that the connection has been broken when you carried this, little puppy dog around in your belly for 9 months, you were their light and joy as they were yours. And then they hit 13, 14 years old. And this is the part that parents forget. They have to disconnect to
Yeah.
develop appropriately. Disconnection from the family value system and the family energetics and the social construct of home is required for individuation.
Mm.
And to do that, they must reconnect those connection points with other things outside of their social structures. And they must create their own social structure. They are practicing individuating and becoming themselves and deciding which part of you they're going to keep and which part of you they're going to let go of. So the number one mistake parents make is because this child is not talking to you today, this week, this month, this year, that somehow the connection is gone.
Yeah.
Give me a break. The connection is not gone. The connection is a 12-year long developed connection. If you are not trusting those formative 12 years of your life, if you were a crappy parent during those years, okay, I understand why you would be really nervous now. But if it was really good, can you just trust that? Can you just bank on that? Can you bank that because you're not in the same feedback spiral that you were for 14 years, that your identity and your individuation must also develop as your teen begins to develop theirs, and that you can be separate from their social construct and still their primary source of energetic reflection? Because you are. You know how I know? Because you built theirs. That's how I know. But they still have to step outside it. Now, if it starts to go south, if it starts to get really crunchy and brutal for them, if the struggle I mean, it's okay if they're in the yellow, right? The traffic light, there's green, everything's go. It's fine. Just go. You're doing great. Yeah, you failed the test. Who gives a crap? You're doing great. You got this. I trust you. I trust your problem solving. Then all of a sudden, the teen goes into yellow. Whoa, that's a weird group of friends. What happened to all those you grew up with? Where did that music come from? Is it, I don't like that music, but is that music really unhealthy? Look, moms, dads, anybody who's listening, I listen to bands like Goat Whore, Cattle Decapitation. I listen to death metal and black metal. I listen to devious, dark, but if you can't tell me what the song is saying, don't tell me it's bad music. And if you can't do that with your children's music, it's just like, I don't like what they're saying. You're not listening. Ask them, what's your favorite song you like right now? Download the lyrics, read the lyrics to yourself and go, why does my kid like this? You'll find out. Because I remember walking through the treatment facility. For those of you who don't know, I ran an adolescent treatment center for 15 years. So I've had other people's teenagers in my homes and in my facilities who were addicts, mental health. The struggle was real. I remember walking through one time and these guys were listening to this rap song. I like rap. I don't listen to rap. I like rap. And I heard the N word. And I said, nope, turn it off. We're done. We're done. And they were like, no, wait. I was like, there will be no N word. And they're like, Aaron, you tell our parents to listen to the lyrics. You're ignoring them now. Check out the lyrics to this song. And they handed me the song and I looked at the lyrics. The whole thing was anti-drug. And it was a good song. And here was a group of boys sitting around like rapping it and sending it to each other. And I was like, I was going to make them turn it off. Wow. Because I didn't like one word. And I teach the parents exactly what the disconnection is. Not just them shutting their door. Moms, dads, you've shut your door too.
Yes.
And you have to know how to, if you don't know how to talk to them, text them. Yeah. Because they'll read it.
Thank you for saying that, Aaron, because the thing is, I had moments where I felt like, now I'm texting my boys, I'm a bad parent, and I'm like, I'm communicating with them.
Yes.
I'm communicating with them and I'm using their means of communication. So if they're not reacting to or responding to my means of communication, I'm using theirs. And there was one thing, because I had this massive moment, and I know I just checked the time quickly. We are way past it, but I don't mind. I just really want to finish this conversation because it means so much to me what you just said. And even to me personally as a parent, you've just given me the biggest gift. Thank you. And we were just on a cruise, and I had this moment on a cruise where a lot of emotions came back, because the last time we were on a cruise was with Rob, my husband, and it was 2 years before he passed away, and it was for our 10-year wedding anniversary. So I knew going on the cruise would bring up memories, would maybe bring up triggers. But what I didn't expect was it brought up a trigger that I didn't see coming. And it was about them leaving the family home. Like, I mean, they're 15 and 17. We're not talking about they're moving out tomorrow. But there was a topic that came up where I realized how much closer that could potentially be than I was expecting, and that I expected a smooth transition. And there was the ripping off the Band-Aid moment that we talked about. And I realized I wasn't ready for that, because one of my favorite parenting quotes is, two things I want to give to my children, there's roots and wings. And the roots were easy, but the wings are really hard. And and I want to give you the flip the switch that came out for me out of 1 hour sobbing on the cruise ship, and then having a really deep conversation with the boys where I openly told them how I felt, what triggers, what emotions came up for me. I wanted to share that with them. And it brought up the deepest conversation with my boys. Oh my God, it's just so beautiful. And from that moment on, I created a new mantra. Every time when there is fear, when there is, this is too fast, whatever comes that doesn't feel good, I instantly now switch into my new mantra, which is like, what's good about this? And it's so simple, but it has been really helpful because every situation I was able to turn around so far. Whatever came up, it's like, okay, so what's good about this? Well, he's creating his own life. He's freaking happy. I've done a really good job raising him because he's, singing in the shower and dancing through the living room. Like I've done a great job as a parent, and I'm owning this now, and I'm not questioning it anymore. Yet what I forgot is that I need to also look after myself in that transition and not just them. Self-love. It's coming back to that over
Of
and
course.
over. I love that we have this conversation, and I really feel I need to have you back on this podcast because I
Happy
think
to
we've
be.
only just scratched the surface, and there's so much more to talk about. And I'd really love to delve back into the topic with you in another season. Not season, sorry, no, in another episode. Let's not wait for another season. Aaron, I want you to share with people, just as a little wrap up, give us a bit of an overview what you can offer people, because we only just mentioned the program, but we haven't really delved into it. So I do want to create some extra time for that. Can you share a little bit about the program, how you work with people, how you can work with people, and how they can connect with you? Just look in the show
Sure.
notes, because we'll be sharing all the links and
Sure.
everything that Aaron has produced and where you can connect with him.
I'll give you two quick ones. Number one, if you're a parent with a struggling teenager or young adult, please go to parentingteensthatstruggle.com. You can reach me there. You can find my podcast, Beyond Risk and Back, there. Um, the podcast is free. It's 300 episodes of me interviewing experts about adolescent development, addiction, and mental health, and how to parent the struggles that exist there. On my Parenting Teens That Struggle page, there is, or website, there's a whole bunch of information for you. There's also a Facebook group called Parenting Teens That Struggle that I post on almost every day. More help, very clear, brutally straightforward, cut and dried principles of support for parenting a teen that struggles. And if you have a young adult, it still applies. If you are struggling with your business, please go to AHR3, Aaron Huey, AH, Robert Raymond Riopel, R3, AHR3.com. And we have a support for you there, whether it's just scheduling a power call where Robert and I spend 45 minutes with you and you end up with a easily 40-page document of taking all your hopes and dreams and ideas and turning it right into an actual business plan, a marketing strategy, a demographic psychographic. It's a very intense, high-powered call that answers a lot of glaring questions. We have an event coming up for those who are truly courageous and deep shadow walkers, thrill seekers, and personal searchers. We have a 3-day event coming up called Behind the Mask. It is a 3-day meditation event. It is unlike anything you've ever done. It is on Zoom, so you will do it from the sanctity and sacred nature of your own space, and it will blow your freaking mind. It is a process that both Robert and I went through 25 years ago separately.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know that the other had done it, but it's the reason why we are business partners, is because we know who we are. And everything comes from that place. It answers the question, what if it's not about being better? What if it's about giving up the struggle to be yourself? But first, to give up that struggle, who are you? I mean, really, not a mom. Who's the person who's a mom? Not a person who works with suicidal teenagers. Who's the person who works? It goes all the way, and you keep pulling off the masks until you're at the person, the true self that is not wearing a mask, and it will blow your mind. It's a 3-day event. We run it 3 times a year. The next one's coming up. You can find more information at ahr3.com.
I want to say something here because I had the pleasure of working with you and Robert, even just for a very short period of time, and I was absolutely blown away by the value that you guys offer. Like even the 5-day free challenge that I did at the time, it was just absolutely incredible how much value you guys offer. And I have never in my working life, and I've done so many of free or low price challenges or high paid programs. I've done it all. I've worked with so many different mentors, and never have I come across anyone who offers so much value and makes it so digestible and actionable as you guys. I can say that wholeheartedly. So whoever needs support in business, you're the right person to talk to. I can say that
Thank you
wholeheartedly.
very much.
So, Aaron, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for jumping in today and starting season 6 with me. It was an absolute pleasure. And as I said, I really feel we've only just scratched the surface. I'd
We
love
have.
to have you back on the podcast, and I will let you finish off our episode today. If there's one thing that people walk away with from this very episode, what would that be?
What if it's not about being better? What if it's about giving up the struggle to be yourself?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, Aaron.
Thank you, Marie.
Everybody who wants to connect with Aaron, as soon as we finish this episode here, I will go back and put all the links and everything you need to know and how you can connect with Aaron in the show notes. So please come back and check the show notes. And Aaron, thank you for being here. This is Aaron and Marie signing off. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now. Look at me. I love this that I can't even see the stop button anymore without